TV remotes are about the most frustrating things to do anything with. Want to search up your favorite show? Nope. Already too difficult. Want to beat every master mode boss, mini boss, and event in Terraria with one? Well, that's a stupid idea. Nobody's that dumb. Aw, shoot. I enter my brand new world, manually change what item I'm holding, and using these 3 tiny little buttons, slowly make my way into a nearby cave. As I awkwardly drudge deeper, allow me to introduce what I'll be using to keep track of how janky using the TV remote truly is. Throughout the challenge, I will slowly be discovering more and more debuff cards to add to the deck of difficulties. And looks like I've already got one: basic movement. I soon encounter a slime, and while it doesn't end like I would have wanted, I get my second card: muscle memory. Using just my thumbs to control everything is way out of my wheelhouse, so takes a few extra processing steps in my head before I can put it into action. Realizing I'm not ready to face such brutal enemies yet, I begin the tedious process of building. And here we go. The remote I'm using uses gyro controls to move the cursor to wherever I aim it. Similar to a Wii remote, except unlike on the Wii, the on-screen buttons don't take up a quarter of the screen. Instead, I have to be precise enough to stay within a tiny square or the building gets messed up. But more on that later, because it's about time I get a weapon. I let a gloop of slimes do me in, leave the tombstones to fester, and hope that by the time I'm back from mining and explaining the rules of the challenge, Abigail's flower will be waiting for me. 1. I am only allowed to use this TV remote to control the game, obviously. 2. I am going to be using summoner weapons exclusively. Now there is an actual reason for this, but more on that later. 3. I have to beat every single boss and mini boss. Only then can I call the challenge truly completed. Now, back to my suffering. In the caves, I'm able to find a band of regen and enough raw materials to make all the basic crafting stations, plus a platinum pickaxe. Unfortunately, the mining trip gets cut short thanks to yet another slime. But oh baby, are we in business. I pick up Abigail's flower with the select button and summon my very first weapon, which is quite underwhelming when I still die to very basic enemies. Already, I desperately want the flint staff, and all it's gonna take is a few more cards in my collection and literal hours off my life. The first obstacle I run into is just getting to the tundra, which is not only hidden behind the crimson, but also something far more annoying: a small section of rope. This remote was built with very specific actions in mind for each of the buttons. For example, the off button, if pressed, would immediately and without hesitation shut off my PC. Or like this one opens Chrome, this guy minimizes the window, so on and so forth. Meaning that this many buttons are completely unable to be used in Terraria, forcing me to, in rare cases, assign certain actions, like climbing up a rope, to a button on the other side of the remote. Yes, there is a full-on keyboard, and yes, I do refuse to elaborate. I use period to climb up the rope and press on, running into the crimson that takes many of my lives, but by being a tad patient, it really isn't too bad to get through, dumping me out into the tundra. I decided it would be a good idea to temporarily set my spawn point nearby, and with the combined powers of jank and low DPS, I'm able to collect enough flinx fur to craft a flinx staff. Along the way, realizing I have no way of zooming in or out on the map, finding a cloud in the bottle, and collecting enough platinum to also throw together a nice coat. Next up, I'd love a whip, but thanks to a few poor investments, my only option is to head into the jungle and make the snapthorn. I try to stick to small areas where nothing can get to me, yet given my current lack of skill, accidents in the jungle are fully unavoidable. Regardless of all the issues, the jungle does end up yielding me a fishing rod, some extra health, a magic mirror, an anklet, a pair of Hermes boots, some feral claws, and finally, the snapthorn. My health is definitely still lacking, but I decide it's time to take on the Eye of Cthulhu. Using the smart cursor conveniently located on the remote's backside, I clear out the nearby area. At this point, I'd also normally add in a few platforms, but the only place I could slot in the down key is a tiny button clear down here. Not a big deal until you realize that in order to drop down a single platform, I'd have to completely stop all other movements. Thankfully, this is just the eye, so here we go. My whip is really good at taking on the servants. It's weird to have to point to where I want to aim, but my dodging ability is where I'm really struggling. Using my thumb to control every aspect of movement is very overwhelming, but I survived to see the eye dip into its second phase. Hitting the terribly placed quick heal button is a struggle to say the least, yet the Eye of Cthulhu has been defeated. This fight was already no joke, and I'm not even remotely close to taking on the beasts of late game. Oh boy, wish me luck. One boss down, the King Slime is my next target, and it seems the game would agree. I absolutely cruise through what'll be known as the Great Slimicide of 2025, getting the pretty rubbish slime staff from a Pinky, then awakening their king. Dealing with all the loose slimes without platforms is pretty tough, but okay, never mind. For literally no reason whatsoever, the second the King Slime spawned also happened to be the exact same second he despawned. Awesome. Now I get to spend the next hour looking for a single ruby, before giving up and instead finding the aether to just shimmer a few diamonds. I use the rubies to make a slime crown and call down the coward properly this time. Like I said, dealing with the horde platformless is risky. I managed to scrape by with my double jump, but end up backed into a cave where the King Slime is soon defeated. Now that you're emotionally invested and won't click off the video, some shameful self-promo. I stream these challenges live here on YouTube. I now have an awesome Discord server. Like the video, subscribe, yada yada. Moving on, allow me to introduce two of the biggest problems with using the TV remote. First, I can only press 2 buttons at a time. If I cross that by trying to left click, jump, and run right, for example, I'll just not do all 3 things. This sucks for my movement capabilities. The second major issue is that in order to quick heal, I have to stop any and all movements. Otherwise, the 2 keys combine to open up the window swap screen, not healing me, pausing the game, and interrupting whatever I'm doing. So if you ever see me doing very weird things as far as movement or healing are concerned, I hope that clears it up a little bit. As far as bosses go, the brain is up next, so I enter the Crimson and start on an arena. The question is, how on earth do I build a vertically based arena without having a proper way to pass through platforms? Dude, I don't freaking know. I'm a gosh dang moron. I mean, just look at what I'm doing. The only thing I could think of to actually do was add in platforms like normal, but with their centers removed so I can drop down there. I bludgeon a few Crimson Hearts, and the Brain of Cthulhu has awoken. Again, my whip is really good for crowd control. However, I still don't have a solid grasp on the controls, putting me in a few very tight spots. Oh my goodness, I can't move! Help! The final creeper is killed, breaking through the brain's frontal lobe and revealing its heart? Phase 2 is far easier than dealing with all the creepers, given the whip indicator shows which of the brains is real. So the brain/heart of Cthulhu has been defeated. Overall, the holes in the platforms were mostly useless, but I got the job done, so who really cares? A blood moon rises later that night, so I grab my rod and bait in hopes of fishing out a few undead, who can drop the vampire frog staff. The fishing itself goes off without a hitch. The problem is my lack of fish storage, so upon day's arrival, every single zombie merman but one simply runs off into the forest. I give the event a second try the next night, and with an actual plan, the only thing that could go wrong is me dying to say, like a single wandering eye fish that somehow snuck into the fishing shack. I will come back to this later, but bloody tearless, I move on to crafting a legendary Deathbringer pickaxe and mining out a elevator, a task the remote actually can handle. Haha, psych! New debuff unlocked. If I hold the remote a little too still for a little too long, the gyro part of it will automatically shut off, switching entire modes and turning left click into enter, which opens up the chat, simultaneously pausing all of my inputs and confusing the heck out of my brain heart for on average 2.2 seconds until it clocks what happened and I resolve the issue. I eventually arrive in hell, collecting a hellforge, mining obsidian, then lava diving for hellstone. New resources in hand, I crochet myself a cute little ninja costume, then using the ever-burning inferno of the underworld to smelt the mightiest metal currently known to man, I forge a staff capable of commanding the foul beasts of hell itself with a single sweep. And right on time too, it seems. While the imps are no Terra Prisma, they still do a pretty good job at dealing with the goblins, keeping me alive the entire battle. They soon retreat, allowing me to move right along under the queen bee. I clear out a sufficiently sized area in the jungle until fully committing to using platforms this time. The goblin also shows up mid-build, so I use my weekly allowance to buy a pair of rocket boots. I smash Her Majesty's precious larva and rush back to the arena. Even with my heavily impaired movement capabilities, the majority of the fight isn't very difficult. Yet as her health gets lower and lower, I start taking way more damage. And 70 health away from victory, I am killed. Man, does that sting. I know I can do it now though, so after putting in the work to make summoning potions, I try again. While the extra imp definitely helps, it's still frighteningly close at the end. Yet the Queen of Bees has been defeated. Twice, actually, letting me go full YouTuber. Starting off with an unboxing video, followed by a try-on haul, then some 5-minute crafts, before closing things off with a shopping vlog. All that put together, I'm up to having 4 minion slots without potions. Another blood moon begins before I can move on to Skeletron, and I sure do hope nothing goes wrong this time. Oh, sweet. I catch a bunch of zombie mermen, don't die, and finally get my grubby little hands on the vampire frog staff. Back on track, I build out a moderately sized platform near the dungeon and give Skeletron a test to see if I'll need platforms or not. Much to my annoyance, the results are positive, so I opt to build 2 full platforms that have occasional gaps in them, like before, to have an easy way down. I summon Skeletron again, this time, for the first time, switching to hand position 2, where both of my thumbs are dedicated to keeping me alive. This is one of the main reasons I went for Summoner. On a keyboard, you have a full finger for every movement. On mobile, it's a single stick to move and jump. On a TV remote though, it drastically helps to have both thumbs dedicated to moving and jumping. I do definitely survive against Skeletron a bit better, but the arena is still far from ideal. The main things I decide to change are 1, I make the arena way longer, 2, I misalign all of the holes, and 3, I add in 1 final platform just in case. Being able to keep my momentum when dropping layers is so much better than before, and using that verticality, I'm able to destroy Skeletron's hands, plunging me into the far easier second half, where the only thing I have to do is run circles around the poor guy. And Skeletron Beta has been defeated. Let's freaking go! Bestowing upon me the dungeon's one and only Hall Pass. I enter its depths, finding the mechanic, cobalt shield, bewitching table, and enough bones to make the spinal tap, all within the next couple of lives. All of which I get to make good use of against the Deerclops, who out of the 999 plot points this challenge has, only takes up 5 of them. I set up its platform, craft a deer thing, summon it, defeat it, then place its relic, leaving naught but a few minor tasks left to complete before I can take on the Wall of Flesh. First order of business, this house is way too basic. Much better. Next, I would love to have a pair of Terraspark boots. I get a magma stone from a hellbat, find some ice skates in the first tundra chest, then continue on to spend the next 2 hours looking for a single set of water walking shoes. It ends up taking 12 individual water chests and 5 ocean crates before they finally make an appearance. But hey, at least I can brag to the guide about how cool my new shoes are. Yeesh, looks like someone's jealous. Nice transition. Holding the remote still enough to build the Hell Bridge would be a perfect fit for r/mildly infuriating, so I may or may not cut it a few kilometers shorter than I maybe should. I add in the final touches, toss the doll, and summon the mighty Wall of Flesh. I choose to use hand position 1 to deal with leeches, and vampire frogs to deal with the actual boss. The problem I soon notice, however, is that anytime I use the spinal tap, my frogs get completely distracted from what they should really be focusing on. I of course also do struggle to stay alive, but as per usual, the thing that ultimately does me in is my own laziness. I fix the error of my ways and give it another go. This time sticking to position 2 unless absolutely necessary, keeping me alive and letting the frogs do their thing. This works much better until I dash at the perfectly wrong time, throwing my health down the drain before inevitably killing me. That was so flipping close. Not much has changed for attempt numero 3, so naturally it too ends in about the same way. The only real thing I get out of it is learning that at the very end of the fight, the wall is traveling way faster than my frogs, so I have to break out my whip or die trying. I once more awaken that great evil, this time also ready with some basic leech defenses, letting me just kinda coast through the majority of the fight carefree. The wall's health soon reaches the tipping point, forcing me to abandon the the safety of position 2 in order to deal any damage. I pray my defense is enough to tank the onslaught until the wall of flesh has been defeated. I scrounge to grab the loot, admire my brand new trophy, and confidence way too high for a guy playing on something that uses AAA batteries, consume the demon's heart, and embark into the world of hard mode. Welcome to the main event. Now I've got places to be, so cue the intro. Better tools, cooler armor, and still unapologetically mediocre summons in hand, I get to work isolating the Crimson. Yet for unclear reasons, I instead switch over to trying to craft wings. Little side rant here while I do a bit of wyvern killing. How are early hard mode summons so tremendously bad at literally everything? Genuinely, how are my spiders this bad at doing the only thing they were designed to do? I alone collect the 20 souls needed, as well as get both an ice feather and a frost core from an ice golem, allowing me to Icarus together a pair of wings, and after some more soul gathering, craft the cool whip as well. This is great, but as I calmly stated before, the spiders simply aren't going to cut it against the mechanical bosses, meaning that I'll first be making a short pit stop to get the blade staff from the queen slime. For preparations, I build up the usual hard mode boss arena, and after making a girl boss habitable, summon the queen slime. The spider's DPS is honestly not the worst I've seen. The real problem is me. Thankfully, I'll be able to put that fact off for a minute, as the pirates are just on time to distract me. I'm mostly just chill in a box, laughing at how helpless they are. Eventually getting the pirate staff and taking down the first mini-boss of the challenge. The pirates are certainly no higher than C tier, but give me the confidence to at least try my hand at defeating the Dread Nautilus. Look, I'ma just nip this in the tentacle right now. This doesn't happen and never does happen. The Blood Moons are too uncommon to get any practice in, and the pirates still suck at hitting flying enemies, meaning that it's queen or bust. Or maybe both, now that I think about it. Anyways, I try over and over again to beat the queen, doing everything from switching summons to trying out strange strategies. It just doesn't work. I definitely get her first phase down pretty good, but the second she sprouts wings, the pirates and spiders become practically useless. She's simply way too fast for them to keep up. Plus the whole flying thing doesn't help much either, putting the responsibility of dealing damage once again solely on my whip, forcing me to attempt the bullet hell like boss in position 1. Long story short, I could write an entire novel about the brutality of this boss and my inability to overcome the quite frankly ludicrous stipulations I've placed upon myself for the sole purpose of suffering. So how about we just skip to the part where I actually managed to make some progress and eventually beat the slime ball. During my quote testing phase of losing to the queen like 12 times, I realized that filling up the arena with lava seriously helps to deal with her minions, and upon taking that idea one step further, I've got it. Whether I like it or not, I am still far from comfortable using the TV remote, and I know that my equipment isn't the problem either. So introducing bubble blocks and lava. I summon the queen slime once more, make it through her much more manageable first phase, and upon her going Insanio style, I fly up to what acts like a platform for me, but not to her. And even more importantly, not to her projectiles or goons either. Man, do I deserve a raise. The fight isn't completely trivialized, however, and I still do end up losing. Yet round 2 could make a grown man cry. I'm that grown man. It seems like every star of this fight perfectly aligns to keep me alive. My out-of-the-blue ability to actually react to live events, the brain of confusion letting me dodge a ton of attacks, and just an overall good vibe. Seeing me through to watch as the queen slime is finally defeated. I shakily open up her treasure bag, and there it is, the magnificent blade staff. That was a lot, so let's just take a second to appreciate the simpler things, like how satisfying this is. I have finally made it to taking on the mechs, yet for some reason it's at this point I decide to take on Skeletron Prime first, thinking he would be the easiest. I now know that that is about as far away from the truth as anything can be, but here we go. Immediately I can tell this is going to be rough. Sure, the blade staff is a massive improvement, but without the extra tag damage, there's still plenty of room for more improvement. I tried taking that into account the next night and am massacred by my impaired movement. It also probably didn't help that it was a werewolf night. Though outside any moon-related incidences, it's plain to see that the biggest problem I'm having is with the lasers. So when I go again, I manually focus my blades on Skeletron's hand blaster while sticking to agility. And as attempt after attempt fly by, I very slowly but surely start improving in general, until finally I've got the moves down well enough to give the blasted blaster a taste of its very own medicine. That's skimming over a lot of pain, so sorry to any viewers out there who only clicked to see me suffer. At least what happens next should put a smile on your faces. Ow. Literally, the zombie killed me. This single poorly timed dash zombie combo single-handedly cost me dozens of minutes of recollecting resources in order to try again. And holy crap, I truly do not know what is happening, but for the first time this entire challenge, I actually feel like I'm not just playing luck of the draw. It feels like I'm able to see attacks coming and take the necessary actions to avoid them. It feels like playing Terraria. I know that sounds crazy, but it's surprising how for granted I was taking that ability. Unfortunately, without dealing any tag damage, I fall short of the DPS quota, so dawn soon breaks, Skeletron is still plenty alive. But I could not care less. After over 40 hours spent using this dang remote, the possibility that I might actually be getting good with it way overshadows the loss. I brew up a few liters of Ichor for its armor penetration, and with confidence present for once, I summon the mighty Skeletron Prime. I'm well aware his lasers are still very deadly to me, so don't break out the Cool Whip until they've been taken care of. From there, I continue focusing on survival except for when he takes to spinning, allowing me to stay alive while still getting the benefits of tag damage and Ichor. We continue our dance of death until his joints grow rusty and Skeletron Prime has been defeated. Still delusional that hellhole of a boss is still going to be the easiest of the mechs, I go all in on preparing to tackle the twins, going as far as fighting Prime another 2 times in order to make a full set of the legendary hallowed armor. I do also make the Durandal because why not? The Steampunker soon moves in as well, graciously letting me exchange 2 platinum for a Clintiminator I only use like max 3 times. The cement mixer on the other hand actually does make its money back. The arena now cranked up a notch, I decide to give the twins a test. Except somehow, without any potions or anything, the test gets me through to Rhett's second phase, with Spaz not far behind either. It's almost as if Skeletron isn't the easiest of the mechs. Mysterious. Shocked by the momentous progress I put in the work and to jump straight back into the madness. This time I'm focusing on Spaz first, which seems to be working because I am not at all struggling to survive. Just like that, Spaz gets a bit angrier, entering into what in my opinion is the far easier of his 2 phases. I lock in just to be safe and only get hit a single time the entire stage. The duo now a 1-0, Rhett really doesn't stand a chance. My skills are actually starting to improve while this guy has to deal with having 0 depth perception. It's simply put not a fair fight, and the twins have been defeated. Beating the twins like this on the second attempt blew my mind, something the optic staff comes nowhere close to doing. Now don't be alarmed here, but I'd like to introduce you to a new segment of the show called Thinking Ahead. I know it's unlike anything I've put out on this channel before, but at least give it a chance, will ya? Post-mechs, the jungle gets way more deadly to be in, so before I get there, I start mining out the Plantera arena. To sum up the average jungle, summoner, and TV remote combo, The arena could definitely be a bit bigger, but who hasn't received that criticism a couple dozen times? My daily chores finished up, I build a little platform in the sky, then a less little platform below that, before summoning the final mechanical abomination. The platforms end up being at nearly perfect heights, giving me a nearly perfect place to both run and hide, as well as a nearly perfect area to actually engage in battle. Too bad nearly ain't nearly perfect enough. I'd pull myself back together and give him another attempt. I gotta take advantage of this. Oh, baby, look at the damage. 12,000. 12,000 DPS right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm frickin' talking about. That is how you fight the Destroyer. With such a phenomenal start to the night, and me realizing I'm able to whip through my coward's platform, it again hits me just how bloody stupid I was going after Skeletron Prime first. The damage continues to steadily flow in until the Destroyer of Worlds has been defeated, unleashing pure anarchy into the jungle and inspiring me to bring back, wait for it, The Rather Quenched Show, starring Rather Quenched, a pair of scorpions, this guy, and also this thing. Seeing as I'm a summoner, there's only one thing I want more than a 3-cent raise, the desert key. So back heavy with supplies, into the sandstone caverns I tread. My afternoon slipping further and further into quicksand while I clean up, clear out, and deal with the local wildlife. Until just like that, a mere quarter of 120 minutes later, I get the key. The key to my disappointment, that is. Yet I fervently push onwards since my generation still has a little something called work ethic. And by golly, does it pay off. Not a second longer than 1/5/17 of a fortnight later, the actual desert key is dropped by a sand poacher. But call me a pig and spit roast me over a fire because it seems as though lightning actually can strike the same place twice. Moments after the first key falls into my open arms, a second one decides to steal the show. Or should I say, sand the show. It will forever boggle me how that got funded for a second episode. Ready for Post-Plantera now, I actually have to get there. I set my spawn in the jungle, finish setting up the arena, die a bunch, then search the entire biome to top off my health bar, prompting me to just commit and summon the voluptuous Plantera. The fight starts off pretty simple, letting me deal some extra whip damage until she brings her balls into play. She soon drops below half health, kicking the fight into high gear. The sheer amount of things going on is extremely overwhelming, and my arena is far too small to properly deal with it all. But gotta be honest, I am very proud of myself for even lasting that long against Plantera. I increased the overall size of the arena, and upon finding another bulb, she awakens yet again. Phase 1 almost ends in complete disaster when the remote decides to run low on battery mid-duel, but I survived to see Plantera's true colors. And my improvements with the remote are really showing themselves off here. Yet 255 health away from victory, I stub my big toe on one of her claws. Just for reference, when I died, I was dealing a 362 DPS. 1 second away, ladies and gentlemen. For Plantera V3, the only major difference I implement is holding a pickaxe when I can't be whipping to try and get the sharpening station's armor piercing. No idea if that's how it works, but it really doesn't matter with how insanely good I'm playing right now. I mean, come on. If this isn't what Terraria is all about, then I don't know what is. And with that, the fearsome Plantera has been defeated. I open up my loot to find the pygmy staff, buy a full set of tiki armor from the witch doctor, then dive right in to the Post-Plantera dungeon, from which I really only need like 1 or 2 things: the desert tiger staff, a morning star, a bunch of ectoplasm, the tabby, a black belt, and maybe a paladin's shield. It takes a while to finally find the desert chest, but along the way I'm able to get everything else I need, and there it is. The Desert Tiger Staff is a massive leap above the Blade Staff. It's honestly kinda insane. And the same thing goes for the Morning Star. I craft up a few pumpkin medallions, then summon the event, once again looking for a few different things. Dealing with Morning Woods is pretty simple given my experience in the field, but by the time a pumpkin spawns, it's a madhouse. So the only way I'm able to actually take one of them down is by getting as far away from everything else as possible. The so-called King is soon smashed to bits, dropping both both his relic and the Dark Harvest. With 2 whips now in hand, I think it's the perfect time to abate all the commenters. Yes, I do know about whip stacking, but given I have to manually, as in actually point and click with the remote, change what item I'm holding, whip stacking would be less than useless. Believe me, if I could stack, I would stack. With 2 pumpkin moons behind me, I'm able to craft a papyrus scroll alongside a full set of the final summoner armor. Heading right back into the jungle, I unlock its sacred temple doors, defile its ancient artifacts, slay its residents, and only come back more vengeful when I am forced out. Kind of what like Britain has done its entire existence. I eventually reach the golem's chamber and oh, you've gotta be kidding me. I add in the saddest platform I have ever built and clueless on what else I could do, summon the golem. I probably don't even have to say this because my hands do all of the talking, but the loss was not very surprising. I decided to try again, actually remembering potions this time, and while I do manage to survive way longer, there's just no way. So instead, directly outside of the golem's chamber, I begin the excavations. Once finished up, I make myself a little mud hut to set my spawn, re-enter the temple, and with one use of a magic mirror, I'm able to escape, dragging the golem along with me. Having more than 3 square inches of space seriously simplifies the fight, letting me drop the golem into its second phase without much issue. I have no idea what goes wrong at this point, but I start absolutely throwing, practically running into every single one of the golem's lasers, at least until the mighty golem has been defeated. I really thought I was gonna lose there for a minute, so thank you, Tiger. You absolutely saved my life. There is no way I'm gonna be replacing you anytime soon. Ooh, well, this is a bit awkward. Have a good life, though. The Deadly Sphere stuff is definitely an upgrade, but what I'm really looking for is the Xenostaff dropped by Martian saucers. The aliens begin their invasion, and the Martians are brutal enough in regular Terraria, so trying to fight them off using a glorified Amazon Fire Stick, not a sponsor, just amplifies the misery tenfold. So much so it takes 2.5 full-scale invasions before I'm able to get a single Martian saucer down. Thankfully, once the ice has been broken and their patterns learned, it's only a matter of time before the staff gets dropped, right? It ends up taking 8 invasions and 11 saucers before I finally get the blasted Xenostaff. That horrific saga ended. It's time to point the scope at my next target, the Empress of Light. Buckle up, folks, this could take a while. You know what? Never mind. On the very first attempt, I somehow managed to get the Empress down to only 10,000 HP before getting robbed of the victory by a random Martian that just got left behind. This single promising attempt, more than anything, finally convinced me that after the dozens of hand cramps and deaths, I am finally mastering the stupidest idea I have ever had. Well, other than genetically modifying corn to grow with see-through husks, so you know what you're actually buying instead of just hoping it's not rotten. That idea probably was stupider. I catch myself a second prismatic lacewing and summon the Empress of Light again, hopefully Martian free this time. The Xenostaff absolutely goes to town on her, allowing me to put all of my efforts into staying alive. Phase 1 ends with me in good health like normal, and my goodness, so does Phase 2. I do know her attacks pretty well, but I am still way outperforming my expectations here. So somehow on the second attempt, the Empress of Light has been defeated. And while she doesn't drop the kaleidoscope, she does give me something else. A tiny little worm in my head trying to convince me that I should attempt fighting the daytime Empress of Light on a TV remote. I really try to put these foolish ambitions to rest, but the idea of pulling that off slowly gets the better of me. So crank the music, put up an attempts counter, and cue the death montage. This isn't a death montage, guys. I know the budget's a bit tight, but wait, no, there's no way. On the first damn attempt, the all-powerful, unbeatable, and magnificent daytime Empress of Light has been defeated. Give me a few seconds to just butter myself up a bit, then I'll stop it, I swear, but I am the greatest Terraria player to ever live. Alright, got that out of the way. The single best summon in all of Terraria now mine, I feel so much more confident that the Moonlord will be possible. I know it sounds weird to worry about the Moonlord after, you know, but the last time I actually beat the Moonlord regularly also happened to be a year and a half ago. So I am very rusty, and please do not forget this, I am also playing on a TV remote. Thankfully, we aren't there yet because it's time to take on the Benchwarmers. Fully embracing the rainbow at this point, I cover the ocean in likely toxic asphalt, catch a few truffle worms, and put my new equipment to the test against the Duke Fishron. And I mean, the damage is completely unreasonable. I barely have time to even say this before I'm thrown into his third phase. And by the time this sentence is also over, I'm already dead. I undeniably suck at fighting the Duke, but coming right back for round 2 a bit more prepared is just enough. I barely even see his first 2 phases, and what I bet is only a single frame away from failure, the Duke Fishron has been defeated. Not really because of my awesome new skills, but more just because I'm lucky and the Terra Prisma is absolutely broken. That's all of the pre-lunar bosses now defeated, so it's time to take on the remaining events, starting with the Frost Moon. Taking out an Everscream is easy as ever, but I get shredded by sand tanks over and over again. The Ice Queen also gives me a touch of trouble in both defeating her than actually getting her relic. Yet the moon soon falls past the horizon, and with zero excitement in my soul, I begrudgingly open up the portals to the ethereal realm, subjecting me to the Old One's army. More like, this is getting old, army, am I right? Attempt 1 ends up falling pretty short, only getting me to wave 5 before the crystal is destroyed. 2 is completely useless when one of the portals spawns like 10 blocks away from the pedestal. 3 sees a dark mage and ogre get killed, ending on the final wave. It's at this point I decide it ain't gonna happen without a sentry to help me out, so I rush through the next 2 invasions, letting me buy an explosive sentry from the Tavern Keep. It's still no walk in the park, however, and mostly serves as a way to delay the grounded troops wave 7 while I get massacred by Betsy. I wait what feels years to respawn, then jump right back into trying to slay the dragon before everything despawns. And just in the nick of time, Betsy is killed and the invasion is over. That was close, yet means that every single objective other than killing the cultist and the literal Moonlord has been accomplished. Let's do this thing. Oh, wait, hold on, I just remembered one final thing that needs doing before the cultist. Yeah, now this is awesome. Actually, every boss now defeated, I Indiana Jones the devotees, awakening the lunatic cultist. To the surprise of no one, the cultist is barely even a threat. They soon fall below half health, and the lunatic cultist has been defeated. Exorbitantly humiliated and incredibly humbled, I actually managed to not make a fool of myself this time, and for reals, the lunatic cultist has been defeated. I decide to go for the Stardust Pillar first, and as long as I stay moving, I'm able to avoid a good amount of the projectiles randomly flying everywhere, only dying twice before breaking through the pillar's defenses. I take one last L, then fell the first Celestial Pillar. Target 2 is the solar enemies, whom are incredibly easy to extinguish with the Terra Prisma, barely requiring me to even move. 2 pillars down, 2 to go. I opt to go for the Vortexians next, using the tried and true box method. It takes a few deaths to get it set up, but once there, it's like a trip to the cemetery at night. Extremely terrifying, yet perfectly safe. I finish off the pillar itself, leaving one final obstacle between me and facing my impending doom. On a TV remote. I brew up what could be the final batch of potions and enter the nebula, somehow only ending up dead twice the entire time. I slay the last enemy, drop down to the pillar, and heart pounding in my head, call down upon me, doom. I sit waiting until at long last the Moonlord has awoken. Foolishly, I start the fight whip out, only switching when his right hand is destroyed before the first death ray even hits. I avoid it just fine, but I'm already down to a quarter health remaining. I somehow make it to my next heal, letting me take out the Moonlord's second hand. Yet the battle ends there, leaving the brute with 129,000 health untouched. While pretty disappointed that I wasn't able to pull off the one-shot, that was a good attempt though, you guys. Yeah, so that was just a load of crap. In reality, it was miles away from where it should have been. I craft my first of 4 potential sigils and to jump right into attempt 2, sure that the first time was just a fluke. His first hand falls cycle 2 this time with me at nearly full health. I get hit by a mini death ray and take down his second hand. Yet, just like before, my ability to dodge and avoid the constant barrage is far from perfect, killing me at nearly the exact same amount of health left as last time. I spend the night thinking about what I could do differently, and when day arrives, I once more call down my doom, fully committing to go all in on defense while letting my summons deal with offense. The hands are destroyed like normal, but the Terra Prisma's range is struggling to reach the Moonlord's top eye unless directly over it. I try to find the balance between being close enough to actually deal damage and staying far enough away to avoid any attacks, yet I die with the ML at 96k HP. 3 losses now under my belt, it begins to set in that the remote I thought I had mastered is once again here to show me that no matter how good I think I am at using it, it's still a doggone TV remote, and that this is supposed to be a challenge, not a 3 AM Futurama binge session. In response, I decided that no, it's not a skill issue on my part, but a problem with my accessories, pushing me to return to the dungeon in search of a paladin's shield, which once combined with a frozen turtle shell will give me a ton of damage reduction without compromising the no knockback provided by the cobalt shield. Naturally, it takes ages to get both ingredients, but should be well worth the price. I eagerly return to the arena to test out my new equipment, and it's my worst performance yet. Slowly starting to freak out, I merge the final celestial fragments, give my, by this point in agony thumbs, a stretch, change out the remote's batteries, and begging for mercy, summon the true destroyer of worlds. And I think I'll just let the footage speak for itself. I respawn and just stand there going over every little detail I can remember in hopes of forming some sort of foolproof plan. And while it's definitely not foolproof, nor really a plan for that matter, here are the conclusions I come to. 1. Nothing bad can come from having a bigger platform. 2. I only have 7 accessory slots, and while I'm decently happy with all of them, I really can't afford to not have the very best. It takes some rather unscientific testing to determine the winners, but here's what I eventually land on. Finally, I spend about half an hour in a testing world to get a better grasp on the Moonlord's overall attack patterns. Although I was using the usual keyboard and mouse combo, so I have no idea if what I gathered will at all transfer over. All the prep I could think of to do now finished, I once more defeat the lunatic cultist. And already bored of the pillars before even starting them, I take out the Stardust one as fast as possible, allowing me to reveal the final ace up my sleeve, the Stardust Dragon Staff. To be clear, I still think that the Terra Prisma is overall a better summon, but as my chat pointed out to me, the Dragon Staff has slightly better range, hopefully increasing the damage I'll be able to deal against the current bottleneck. I tear through the next 2 pillars, but stop on the edge of the vortex. I triple check that I have everything I need, and my impending doom approaches. Then I'm killed by a random burst of lightning, throwing my semi-calm demeanor straight out the window. Panicking that the Moonlord will arrive before I'm ready, I rush to the arena, shakily chug my potions, summon the ideal ratio of 3 dragons to 6 blades, and still suffering from the death, the Moonlord has arrived. I hold back using the kaleidoscope to postpone releasing any true Eyes of Cthulhu before I have to, breaking it out instead to focus my dragon on the Moonlord's top eye. This no doubt helps, but the rocky start really threw me for a loop. I do my best to not panic like last time going into the next rematch, and it's finally going decently. It's going so well, in fact, I do the entirety of the first cycle completely damageless. Yet I of course dump it all down the drain when I accidentally pause the game trying to heal. All the pressure in the world to smoothly transition back into it on me, I lose track of where I am in the fight, plunging me directly into a phantasmal death ray. Dang you, Pepper Jobs, that was such a promising attempt. Why couldn't you just make a normally functioning W10 gyro air TV remote, QWERTY keyboard, fly mouse for Windows 11/10, LED backlit keyboard, mini PC controller, 6-axis gyro with learning remote control function. Why? I spend the final space fragments to craft another glorified coaster, attempt to collect my nerves, and bring unto battle one final time, Moonlord. Not quite, but no worries. I hate that set of attacks. Guys, I just can't. I'm just being slaughtered out here. I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. Nice. Not so nice, but it's fine. We got some hearts. Recenter mouse. Okay, eyes back open. Should be destroyed any second now. Okay, that is first time we've gotten to the core. I just have to not mess it up. Okay, so go kind of far away, so I'm fine for the lasers. Let him approach slightly. Oh, I'm glad I dodged there. Okay, and I gotta keep his core at least somewhat above. Holy crap, how did I not get hit there? Okay. I know the damage isn't very good, but I do not want to be close with all those lasers going on. Okay, we've got to cross over, unfortunately. Okay, once again, kind of go far away. We're looking good on laser front. Bring him in close. Yep, we're good on at least 2 lasers. It's fine. Guys! Guys! Yes! Yes! Woo! Oh my goodness! Finally, you guys! The game in its entirety has been beaten with just a flippin' TV remote. My thumbs are finally free from the agony. Thank you all for being here. The game is finished. I return home at last a champion, open up the Moon Loser's treasure bag, and place his relic. Having spent 86 hours playing on a TV remote to get here, dying 441 times in total, and going through 8 AAA batteries, which are not cheap, by the way. So subscribe. This was so immensely stupid, but thank you all so much for not changing the channel and watching up to this point. Have a truly fantastic rest of your day, don't take your thumbs for granted, and see ya!